Welcome, everyone, to the L7C Podcast NBA edition. Today, we have a very special NBA pod for you guys because for the first time since the L7C has been formed, we are doing an in-person NBA podcast. So we have the NBA aficionado with us, Mr. Evan Debo. Welcome to your first in-person one, man.
Thanks for having me, man. This is exciting. Well, thanks for hosting me in your abode here.
Oh, no problem. I mean, it was your suggestion. I was just like, hey, we could do it in person or one. And you were just like, hey, let's do one in person. So I am more than obliged to do one in person with you. Evan, there's been a lot of things that have happened since our last recording. And I do want to start with maybe the biggest surprise in the NBA. Not even being a homer. This is legit. The Cleveland Cavaliers, since the last time we recorded, there was a point in time they were undefeated. Obviously, that is well past, but they're still sitting atop of not just the Eastern Conference, the NBA.
The kings of the NBA world reside in Cleveland off of Ontario Street right now. Like it is so exciting. Like I think back to our preseason pod and just looking at and discussing like, okay, well, you know the Bucks are going to be up there, the Knicks are going to be up there, so the reigning champs are probably still going to be your top dog of sorts, and maybe Cleveland sides in that 4 or 5 slot here or there, but no, came out guns blazing. They've had some things bounce their way. So I mean, obviously there's some significant injuries affecting the Magic right now, affecting Philly and Philly start. I mean, I don't think anybody saw that happening how it is, but we're not here to talk about those other teams right now. We're here to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers on the Kenny Atkinson diet. They are moving with pace. They are switching more defensively than they ever have, like in previous years under J.B. Bickerstaff. Mobley's taken that offensive leap. He's also to the point where he's bringing the ball up the court, kind of as just that initiator of the offense, too. You have a healthy Darius Garland who doesn't have a broken jaw trying to keep pounds on by drinking through a straw. Like, I mean, all those things have added where other teams, have moved around. The Knicks with their sizable Karl Anthony Towns trade, all those kinds of things. For the Cavs, they invested, they doubled down, they tripled down, they quadrupled down in their big four by locking them into long-term deals and securing none bigger than Donovan Mitchell. But Martin, I want to run some stats at you, rapid fire pretty quick. So the Cavs sit game and a half up against the Celtics. Celtics very still. They are a formidable opponent. We're 1-1 against them, and we could be 0-2. I mean, we had some stuff bounce our way in that second game with no Jaylen Brown playing. But the Cavs sit 23-4, best record in the NBA, 14-1 at home. This is tied for their best start in franchise history. You think about a guy named LeBron James played here for many, many years with a lot of talent. And, in his prime, when he didn't have talent, doing absurd things every night. 3 of the top 14 shooters in three-point percentage efficiency. Isaac Okoro, that is not a mistake, that is not a typo, is number 2. Karis LeVert, number 4. Ty Jerome has slipped a little bit because he was lighting the world on fire off the bench. I definitely hope my 6-man bet that I did a couple of weeks ago, because he's kind of fallen off, comes back into fruition as a possibility. He's at number 14. So you've got 3 of the top 14 three-point shooters in the league on the Cleveland Cavaliers currently right now. And it's not like Donnie and DG aren't hitting threes out there either. They're 7th in the league in defensive efficiency. From a historic standpoint, Donnie now has more 30-point games as a Cleveland Cavalier than Kyrie Irving does. They are number 1 in offensive rating. They are number 2 in net rating. They are number 3 in assist-to-turnover ratio. Taking better care of the ball despite the up in pace. They are number 1 in field goal percentage. They are number 1 in true shooting percentage, number 9 in pace, 8 games up in the Central. Mobley is shooting 41% from 3 himself, which isn't even good for top 14 in the league. It has been, again, characterized by this off-ball movement, a lot of the Golden State principles you see in this offense right now, and just staying to some of those defensive principles with the 2 bigs in the paint, doing a lot of switching defensively. I did not see this coming. It's awesome to see. I mean, again, I think even the most homerist of homers for Cavs fans know that, like, we've got a big game against Milwaukee coming up on Friday, and they absolutely, just winners of the NBA Cup we'll get to in a little bit, have really turned the tables on their season and their bad start. We all know, Boston, it just is chucking it from three every night, and they make a high percentage of them. So, I mean, those are our monsters we're up against in the East. But I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to let you process some of the accolades we just shared. But it has been something, man. It has been so great to see.
So, in our preseason thing, I think with the Cavs, I said the highest they could get would be the 3rd seed, which just 1 seed up from last year because they were the 4th seed. But I felt like they would have been better than Milwaukee just because Milwaukee's defensive struggles from last year were just abysmal. And I thought that Cleveland, fully healthy, would be well. Because, again, I want to remind people that when Cleveland played Boston in the playoffs, obviously we were not at full strength. I will still say at full strength, the Cavs definitely could have taken that series to 6, maybe 7. Probably still lost, but I think the shock that they went undefeated in the record there, yes, but I'm not shocked because of the fact that this is a good team. Like, this was a good team last year. They brought basically everyone back to an extent, all the key pieces. Obviously, the change with the coach and the different offensive and defensive philosophies, but the team's there, man, and like every year that we've done this, I feel like not just because you and him have the same name, but Evan Mobley should be up for awards too, because obviously that one year he should have been Defensive Player of the Year or Rookie of the Year or Most Improved. Like, now I'm thinking is he maybe in the talking for Most Improved and all that stuff? And obviously too, with Donovan being the best, you can say the best player on the team and leading our team right now, it's like he should be getting a little bit more MVP pub. Like, hey, the Cavaliers were undefeated for a bit. They're 23-4. God forbid if the Cavaliers get to 60, 62 wins, you got to seriously look at players on that team and reward them with individual accolades. So it's great to have this type of winner right now at the Christmas portion of the season. And
they've got a lot of 15-16 Hawks feel to them. I mean,
they do.
You've got guys scoring in the similar range, but you don't have that runaway 30-point per game score like a Giannis or a Tatum or anything right now. So, and that's really come at the expense of, Donovan is taking a backseat. He's taking less shots. He's making it less about him. I think that was what Kenny pitched him to, allegedly on a napkin in L.A. Legitimately, he just pulled up a napkin and salt shakers and somehow sold him. But he's taken a step back. Jarrett Allen has taken a step back offensively in terms of touches and numbers of pick and roll, those kinds of things. But it's got that 15-16 Hawks kind of feel to it. Is everybody's mouth is getting fed, the distribution of shots and shot profile is really in a healthy spot. And again, being cautiously optimistic here, I recognize that we were in a spot where some of these teams were last year, where we did not have good injury luck whatsoever. Nope. So this is when we're at full strength, with the exception of we still don't have Max Strus inserted yet. I do, and we talked before the pod kicked off that I anticipate probably some hiccups here and there with trying to get him back into the fold. He's being a little undersized, he's a really great defender. Obviously, he can put it in from 3 as well too. So, but that's another mouth to feed as well. They'll get it figured out. We'll see how the rest of the season progresses, but at least here recording on December 18th, best tied for the best start in franchise history, and Kenny Atkinson has been the catalyst for all of this.
Donnie boy taking that step back, still averaging 23. Garland's averaging 20. Evan Mobley's averaging 18.
18-9, 2.5 assists a game, and again 41% from 3.
It's crazy. And then you got Jarrett Allen averaging a smooth double, 13 and 10. They're all producing. When you have a team like this where everyone's producing in their own way and the bench is producing, I do get the Hawks thing, but we're not going to run into a LeBron in the East. Maybe, like you said, Giannis and all of that, but I will say the difference is that the Hawks team didn't have anyone like Donovan Mitchell who can get you a 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, who has all been proven, so he can do it. The Hawks never had a player who could get past 30.
No,
so
they didn't.
I think that's the biggest difference. And our home crowd's better than the Atlanta home crowd. That is a fact.
Absolutely.
That's a fact.
A lot of empty chairs in Atlanta.
Yeah, so and I get the sentiment with because he's like, oh, there's no superstars on this. Okay, just saying. But, Evan, there's everything else around the league. It's not just about the Cleveland Cavaliers.
That is true.
Obviously, unfortunately, there is a lot of good teams out there in the league. Some we expected, some we didn't expect. And let's just throw the one that made it to the semifinals of the NBA Cup that just concluded. That team in Houston. This is not your mom and dad's Olajuwon Houston Rockets. It's not the Steve Francis Houston Rockets. It's not the T-Mac and Yao Ming Houston Rockets. It's not the James Harden Houston Rockets. This team is being led by a lot of young players. I mean, I think the oldest player, the vet, Fred? Is Fred the oldest player on this team? Fred VanVleet? Jeff Green. Oh,
old man Jeff Green.
Old man Jeff Green. You're right. But, Evan, they are surprisingly, right now, today of recording, the third spot in the West.
They're playing really good, as a unit. So you're seeing, year two in this aggregate. Some of the stuff that they've gotten defensively, we know what good and bad comes with Dylan Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking more importantly about, Tari Eason, and think about, Jabari Smith and some of their, wing length and stuff. So that's been really helpful. I mean, we've seen some regression and we've really seen a lot of regression out of Jalen Green. So they're doing all this with that. I mean, Fred VanVleet is definitely seems like he's on the kind of the back end of things here. I mean, obviously got that huge bag a little over a year ago, but they're pushing all the right buttons. Udoka's got them. Definitely putting effort in on the defensive side of things. To get to that semifinal, they beat the Warriors. Again, kind of a questionable last second shot by Curry, but you let him take that shot because he's the greatest shooter of all time. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this was one that wasn't on our bingo card either. You're right.
And it's amazing. And even just looking at number 2, just because of his obviously coming back resurgence, the Memphis Grizzlies just sitting there at number 2 in the West right now. We have already long talked about all the stuff that Ja went through last year. But again, no one thought they'd be sitting here at 18-9 this early part of the Christmas break.
Yeah, they've absolutely been impressive as well too. So my favorite Grizzly moments are when they're blowing out teams at the end of the game and Yuki gets in the game. Even away crowds want the Yuki experience. So Yuki Kawamura, he's what's his build height? Is he 5'6", 5'7"?
Yeah, he's something.
He's something. But
something
hey,
crazy.
I mean he's got 5. He's 5'8", so he's 2 inches shorter than me. And Duke can ball. So that's all that matters. One real quick thing back on Houston. So just kind of in the fluidity of this pod here, thinking about just unexpected, all those kinds of things. One team towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings, and I'd say more middle, right? So we're talking about some stuff going on with the Miami Heat and a name like Jimmy Butler. And I'm looking at Houston and I see that, hey, outside of Alperen Şengün, they really don't have a guy that listen, we just absolutely need a bucket. It's in the final 2 minutes. Who are you going to? And Houston has gone big game hunting. They've tried to go big game hunting over the summer. They are ready. They've got, some assets from some of those, shuffling around of Hardens and CP3s and Westbrooks. And I believe they were able to get, I don't remember the exact years, but I remember they were able to get, I think, a pick kind of bumped or in a better position back from Brooklyn, where I think they can control their own pick and something. So they've got toys to play with where the rest of the league doesn't play. So that's an interesting Jimmy Butler team for me, potentially, where things definitely seem to be going south. Jimmy can be a free agent this summer, but with these new second apron things too, I don't think there's going to be as flashy of a summers anymore because teams are so locked in they cannot do that with so much encumbered on the books.
Would they have to go out east to make a splash? Because you want to talk about a team that we've always talked about. If they were fully healthy, they could compete, but their star player is never fully healthy. I mean, Pelicans, could they go Brandon Ingram shopping? Or, I mean, someone is going to shop for Zion, they're inquiring, but Brandon Ingram, we know he is a certified bucket too.
Pelicans got to blow it up. I think they realize, they've been sold kind of a bad thing of goods here with, Zion. They've done what they can. And that's even with Zion playing a decent amount of games last year. It's just, you're not getting the ROI on the big contract you signed. They've tried to trade Brandon Ingram. They've tried many times. I mean, if you believe some of the dirt sheets, there was a discussion about Cavs and Jared Allen for him. I mean, because they needed a center too, and like you just can't. If you're the Cavs, you can't do it. You can't do it.
No. We're not. We got big guys.
But that's a great name to bring up though, because like we've got Brandon Ingram who's like making like 50 mil a year. Like who wants to take that for? Because Brandon Ingram also has like he's a high ball usage guy. He's a guy who's just going to put up a lot of shots a game and stuff. But he's also big game potential too, obviously, in terms of a bucket getter, like you said. So it's going to be like a team like Houston wanting to take. I feel like that's that caliber team, that team like on the rise that kind of needs to put their stamp on things, put their foot down on something. It's got to be a team like that to swoop in and say, We've got some young players. We've got some folks. I mean, and obviously, OKC lingers, large and stuff too. I don't think Brandon Ingram's somebody they want to go with. But no. I mean, with the amount of picks coming down with OKC, there's only 15 roster spots with 3 two-ways like available. So like at a certain point, you got to keep kicking picks down the road and trading, your 5 seconds this year for 3 higher ones next. Like you got to keep doing that, or you got to cash in on players. So, but I mean, I think Houston could be a team to kind of take a swing like that. There's some other teams out there in no man's land too that like would could the Pistons take a swing like that?
Pistons currently, if we ended the season today, they're in the play-in.
The JB Bickerstaff effect. He is a floor raising coach.
Cade Cunningham getting triple doubles like nothing else. I'm like, wow. I mean, also too with people at the bottom too, like just out west, like a Lauri Markkanen, who's always talked about in trades. And
if I'm OKC, I'm
I would get Lauri. I would get Markkanen.
Lauri right now.
That would change. I think that would put them over the edge if they got Markkanen. But again, I know this isn't like the NFL where you don't want to trade within like your own conference or whatnot. But I think that's
the price is right. The price is right.
Yeah, the price is right. The price is right. Also, a team that we've always talked about too here, the Atlanta Hawks, 14,
They've been 13. A problem. They've been a problem lately,
especially for the Cavs.
Well, not just the Cavs. They've beaten the Celtics twice. Mm-hmm. They've beaten the Bucks. It's interesting. Like they started off kind of mediocre. They've also been the same team that I have to look up their schedule again here. I'm pretty sure they've lost to the Wizards in the same breath. You know, too. I think one of those Wizards. One of the Wizards' 3 wins this year.
I watched the game where Trey had 20 and 20 against the Lakers and the game-winning shot.
They get up for big games, and I really like Jalen Johnson. They invested in him this offseason. Reese Shea he's still very raw, but what they're getting out of him defensively has been great, I think. I feel like Trey's kind of has been told, or he is, going off the throttle a little bit offensively and kind of going into that. Yep, like you said, let's get into the 15, 16, 18, 20 assist range, all those kinds of things. But, we just saw today, I think they're going to lose Okongwu for a little bit, which will hurt in the paint. But, that's a team that the Cavs have struggled with. That's the reason why Cleveland did not go advance in the Cup, was solely because, Atlanta beat them once in the regular season, and they beat them in the Cup game. And the Cavs didn't really have any answers. They really struggled shooting the ball. Donovan really struggled in both games as well, too.
And then a team that you already mentioned, because if they were fully healthy, I think they would be right there with the Cavs and the Celtics, the Orlando Magic, especially earlier. If they had all their pieces, because of them bursting on the scenes last year, and now what they were doing this year, they're still 17 and 11. They're still 4th in the East right now.
Without Powell for how many of those?
He's been gone for a minute. So
Franz has stepped up. He's shooting pretty good too, but obviously they just lost him as well. But they're still a scrappy team.
17-11. I wouldn't. If I was in the East playoff wise, I wouldn't want to play them fully healthy. No. That's a very dangerous game.
That was a rock fight last year, and we barely came out on the other side of that rock fight. If they went to 8 games, I think it gets tied going back to Cleveland for a night. That's how it was. That's why home court matters. Martin, a couple other quick notes on the East. Mm-hmm. What happened to Tyrese Halliburton? The Pacers sit at 8, and he's just fallen. He was billed as he's the next great point guard. He's, the taller Trey who cares and doesn't take bad shots and just distribution, and they've just fallen off the cliff.
Honestly, I think he had too much fun during the offseason. That's just me. Not going to get into this stuff, but I think he had a little bit too much fun. Started smelling himself a little bit too much. doing way more publicity stuff and less practicing. But that's I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Well, let's switch it real quick too. So the Knicks have started to bounce back a little bit. Obviously, you know it was all about the Villanova Knicks, right? And then they didn't even let that happen to start the season with all four of those guys. So I mean they got rid of DiVincenzo. I don't like that trade from Minnesota either. From what we've seen, like we questioned it, I think at first, and like, all right, well, let's see. I mean, I think both teams feel like, you know, they wanted to try to keep chipping away at the margins, getting a little bit better, chasing the Celtics and all those kinds of things. But like, I mean, it's not been that great. I mean, they have no interior presence, and they really struggle at defense at times.
If Brunson isn't going crazy, or I mean, Cat's had a lot of, like, watching him this year, he's had a lot of good games, so much so that you got people like Fat Joe saying that Cat's the best offensive big man in history on Carmelo Anthony's pod, and I was like,
you should lean back out of that statement.
I was just like, I was like, okay, but Cat is very gifted. Again, that trade to me made no sense when it happened, and now you're also just on the flip side with the Timberwolves. You know, that was another team coming into last year in those playoffs when they swept the Suns. Everyone wanted to crown Anthony Edwards. You know, he's the next great shooting guard in line. Now they're just sitting at the 7th seed, 14 and 11, and you really don't see them really doing anything when it gets to the postseason.
It's been a rough second half of the year for Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, he's.
I mean, the Team USA stuff too. I mean, he had the platform where everybody's ready to anoint, and like it's just. I mean, he's still Anthony Edwards, but we just haven't seen that leap like we thought we were going to yet. Martin, another note out west. So Dallas still hanging strong.
Yeah.
With Clay.
Yep.
So I mean, 17-9, they're tied with Houston, but Houston has a tiebreaker right now, so they technically sit fourth. Denver feels like they've let some people go and didn't pay who they needed to pay for some things.
Like Bruce Brown?
And not even so much that. So, I mean, you lose KCP.
Yeah,
this team, I think, is taking the least amount of threes in the NBA this year. At least that was what they said when the Cavs beat them most recently. And the Cavs beat them pretty handedly. I mean, it's Joker or nothing right now. Jamal is struggling, man. And
he only plays good against the Lakers.
And he's just struggling. So, I mean, some of the depth they have, like, obviously they put Christian Braun in the starting lineup. Like, I mean, I saw one of those, like, clickbait sites today that was like, is Zach LaVine bound for Denver? Like, I don't say that I'm putting stock in that, but I'm saying, like, they got to figure something out, I think, for some depth, for some more shooting. Russell Westbrook at times is the second best player on that team.
Yes.
He is. I mean, like, can you imagine him in his prime running and gunning and just bouncing off of just kind of a distribution turnstile like we know Joker is, but Joker's playing out of his mind for them to be 14-10. Like, I'd give him the MVP probably right now anyway.
And then right below them, this team would have been higher if Kevin Durant wasn't gone for so long, because remember, Phoenix started hot. Like, and then KD was out for a bit. He's recently come back. They're sitting there 14-11, not too shabby on their own part. You know, we always talk about, well, it's a KD, Booker, and what is his name? KD, Booker, Bradley Beal. Yeah. And then is that going to work out? But yeah, and Grayson Allen. Right now they're in the 16th. I mean, playoffs started.
Golden State with their first trade in the last week, heading into like really 2 months of trade deadline. They need to do something. They pick up Dennis Schroeder, who's been scrappy with the Brooklyn Nets under Jordi Fernandez, who's been really scrappy lately. So most likely he'll be inserted in the starting lineup. But I mean, I still think they would like to go get a star like a Jimmy Butler. But I just don't know how. I don't think they can do it based on their tax standing now. So I mean, some kind of thing. Ship out Wiggins, Kuminga. Like, it feels like they're kind of doing window dressing right now. Like Kerr's playing way more players than he wants to play. He's trying to showcase, hey, look at this guy. He could be something on your team. So like, it's like, let's put all the best cars out on the lot. It's Saturday, and moms and dads are trying to buy a new car, and Steve Kerr wants to sell him one. So in exchange for a star. So Clippers losing Paul George. They're 3 games over 500.
James Harden's been having some retro. Hard at night. Can
we talk about the Norman Powell leap? Did you see that coming? 23.5 points a game. You know, I listened to him on a pod last Friday, you know, just kind of talking about, people think because he's played the longest, and obviously back to the Toronto Championship days with Kawhi Leonard, and kind of that relationship of sorts, as anybody can be close to Kawhi Leonard. But for kind of that add-on piece there, kind of fourth banana, third banana, at times, like when he was brought in, like he has taken the leap. He is 50% from the field, regular 2 points, 48% from three. He's getting to the line, not a whole lot, but I mean, 3 rebounds a game. Like I did not see this coming. Like he could be a most improved if people are looking really close at his stuff.
The fact that they're still above 500, I mean, obviously, without Kawhi, who knows if we'll see him play.
Bones Highland's still in the league. How about that? I forgot about Bones.
Also have to show credit to the former Cavaliers coach because he can coach. Tyronn Lue.
Ty Lue can coach him up. And then probably the last one to touch on, unfortunately, just because of name alone, we have the Los Angeles Lakers.
I mean, I know initially the whole JJ Redick thing, but
I like JJ as a person, really smart guy.
The roster's a roster.
But the roster's the roster, and it wasn't Darvin Ham's fault.
No, it wasn't.
That's been the narrative, has it not been, in the last 24 hours?
14-0 in the cup, whatever he is.
Since the Bucks won the cup.
Yep.
I saw his face photoshopped onto Pop's head, and because I mean, yeah, he's 14-0 between the last 2 years. So it's the roster is the roster. I mean, they still have that. I think that 29 first that they could use for something, but I mean, why do it?
Well, just think with the Lakers, the first 2-3 weeks, Anthony Davis is when he played like that. We're like, okay, the Lakers can really do something because he was playing out of his freaking mind. And then that teeters down. And then Dalton Knecht, who was playing out of his mind at the same time. We're like, oh, the Lakers could really do something. And then if you look, the Lakers have almost the same identical record right now that they had when they had Darvin Ham. Almost the same exact record. So it's like, again, if Anthony isn't playing out of his mind, if Dalton's not going crazy, obviously, LeBron, that Atlanta game summed up the Lakers to me.
Yes.
Because it was often, that game was after LeBron had a terrible game, but he had a 30-plus point triple-double that game.
Didn't matter.
Anthony Davis he was 1 assist away from a 30-point triple-double that game too, and they still lost. That sums up the Lakers to me.
Did not matter. I mean, LeBron is a turnstile on defense. He's just not playing defense anymore. No. And you got to know what comes with that. I mean, you're right. James had 39 that game. Davis 38.
The game was absurd.
It was absurd. I mean, back and forth, and the Lakers should have won that game. But I mean, you're exactly right. That's a summative nature. So we go from the Lakers with the old team of Darvin Ham to Darvin Ham's new team, who played last night in the NBA Cup Year 2. In the final. So it was Bucks and OKC. Darvin Ham is now an assistant on Doc Rivers' staff.
Yep.
Just loosely, Martin, lead up to this. Where are you feeling Year 2 of Cup?
Well, I think this final is also going to lead to some of the stuff I'm going to talk about later when we talk about other topics. I like the 2 teams that were in the final because, one, you had the number 1 team in the West right now, regular season wise. They made it all the way through. You had one of the best, my personal favorite player right now, Shai Alexander, SGA. You had a whole bunch of young teams. Then you had a team over here, Giannis, established champion, and Dame, who everyone likes Dame. But the fact that Milwaukee made it this far, because I wrote them off in the first month. I did, because they were terrible. They were trash. I think it was a 2-8 to start. I thought Doc was getting the boot by my birthday in October. I didn't even think he was making it past Halloween. And the season started the week before. That's how bad they were. And the fact that they've clawed their way out of that, and they have a 14-11, I believe, right now. 4-0 in the East Group B, won the Cup championship. I think that does so much wonders for their psyche. That's now the Bucks are dangerous, because if they're clicking like this, Middleton getting back into form, all of that, they could be that Bucks team that we talked about. Oh my gosh, first year post COVID, 2021, winning the title.
They started 2-8, and they
Yeah,
rebounded
2-8.
to that.
They were terrible.
They were terrible. I mean, I will
Giannis
say,
getting traded rumors. This, that. Is Doc getting? Is this his last job ever? Like, and here we are winning the cup.
so they've got Taurean Prince is leading the league in 3-point percentage. The Lakers just cast away.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't see it on their radar. Undrafted Northern Iowa, AJ Green is a bucket. That dude can light it up from 3-point range. I mean, he killed the Cavs are 2-0 against him so far, and it's kind of a sneaky 2-0. One was the Donovan Mitchell game winner after dribbling the ball off his knee, almost losing it. And hey, I'll just chuck it up and win the game, and he did. The second one, Giannis did not play. 2 days later on one of those like baseball series.
Giannis is currently right now the leading scorer in the NBA, which I would never thought.
They just got Chris back briefly for a little bit. He did not play last night. And who knows where he's at. I mean, he's starting to get up there age-wise. Brooke Lopez is really, I mean, he's his time in the NBA, I think, is waning. Like he's still a physical presence as big as he is. It's been amazing to see his career go that long. But a large part of this has also been Bobby Portis is pouring it in that six-man role.
Love Bobby Portis.
Bobby. I mean, just you go back to that days where they signed him off the scrap heap from Chicago, and the guy is really, really helping lead that second unit, and they turned around, man. There's big matchup. Cavs Bucks on Friday. Have that up on one screen. Have Hoosiers and Notre Dame in the first ever game of the expanded college football playoff on the other screen. In-state battle of Indiana there, and battle of the Central Division on the NBA side. So
I think it's crazy with Giannis too that like, and just again, he's the leading scorer in the league right now, averaging 32.7, 11.5 rebounds, 6.1 assists. Again, they keep going this way. Obviously, like you talked about, like Joker's going absolutely crazy. And statistically probably would be MVP if you stop right now. But it's like, I don't know if they're going to give MVP to a fifth seed when, he's done a lot better at higher seeds. So, again, Giannis could be right there.
So let's get to the game last night. So Bucks and OKC in Vegas. There was a lot of talk about, hey, there's like $8 tickets available. Like last year you had the whole, hey, this is a long weekend and it's a fun thing for the Lakers fans to drive, a reasonable driving distance to Las Vegas. You don't have that this year. The game, I mean, it was a defensive stalemate. I mean, both teams under 100 points. I mean, that does not happen in the NBA often.
No.
But as good as OKC has been, now granted, no Chet Holmgren still.
Nope.
They had one of their worst 3-point shooting games. So, I mean, some of that you like to think is, hey, we just missed open shots. But the Bucks are also long. They've always been long defensively, and, that could be a problem too. But I mean, the Bucks really took it to them last night, is kind of cementing that, okay, the Bucks are back. Yep. The Bucks are back, and you've got to be worried about them conversation. Like, that was the stamp. They win the whole gosh darn thing last night. Everybody gets their $500,000 splits. Doc wins his first title since 2008.
Hey,
it's not really
he's hey, I think it's interesting, too. Like, I want to see what Milwaukee does, because I think the problem, too, when you brought up, like, the Lakers thing, like, obviously LeBron was making it such a big deal last year. They hung a banner up, which I do not think, to this day, if Kobe was alive, they would have let that banner be hung up, but that's a different thing. I want to see what Milwaukee does. Are they going to hang up a banner? Is this going to truly be the thing that we're hanging up cup banners, or they're just going to be like, all right, like you said, Giannis was like, hey, we got the Cavs on Friday. Like, it's back on the grind, so I think it's great for them to win, and again, it's an established star. Like, the only two MVPs of this cup have been LeBron and Giannis, established people, and I think it's good for them. Like, and then the Thunder, they just couldn't buy a bucket. Like, for people who don't watch the Thunder, that is not how they typically shoot. Like, in a game, it was just a combination of bad shooting. Bucks great defense.
Jalen Williams 8 for 20 last night.
Yeah, just bad.
To get to 18 points. Shea, usually a 30-point per game scorer, held to 21. Obviously, towards the end, there wasn't much left to play for. Caruso struggled. He was an 0 for Kenrich Williams. Not helpful either. 1 for 5, 1 for 6. And then, Giannis was not, like, you could tell he had his eye. 19 big boards, 10 assists. 2 steals, 3 blocks to go with 26 points. Lillard really carried them in the first quarter. Just pouring it in. I think he had at least 12 in the first frame. You got a little bit of a bounce back game from Lopez at 13. If you can get 13 points out of Brook Lopez, it's a good game for Milwaukee. Yep. Then off the bench, Gary Trent. I've long been a Gary Trent fan, so a vet minimum to Milwaukee, really. We could have found a vet minimum for him, but we've got a lot of undersized wings as it is in Cleveland, and obviously with our record, I'm not going to complain. But so the Bucks take it last night, 97-81 in a low-scoring affair, to be the second ever Cup championship team.
And then from there, I mean, I also do like it where all these teams, if you're not playing the Cup, you get a little extended break because, years ago, everyone was crying about the back-to-backs and all that, so you get the break there. But then you go from the NBA Cup this week.
One quick note on that. I'm glad you brought that up. Like that, I feel like that's still a little funky. So like the teams that don't make the Cup, they basically take all the teams that don't make the Cup and say, listen, you're not going to play for like 4 days.
Yep.
And then here's like 2 games and 4 nights against one of the other teams that didn't make it. So for the Cavs, it ended up being like Washington was added last Friday kind of thing. But like one of the instances, I feel like it was 5 days off for the Cavs, and it just felt super weird. Like, I would have loved that spaced in. Like, it's a miracle we haven't had a big injury yet, anything else, knock on wood. But, like, we had not had 2 consecutive, like, days off in, like, weeks. Like, sprinkle that in a little bit more because now you got some weird rhythm stuff. And it's not just the Cavs, it's other teams in the league. So, like, I feel like they got to iron that out just like a hair on those break things.
I agree. But you have this is a big week, obviously, because they had their Cup championship. And then the following week is one of their biggest weeks is Christmas. So you go from Cup finals to Christmas, like that's your marquee day for the league. So I do think like exposure-wise, that's good for the league having those back-to-back. But Christmas has always been established as like an NBA 5-day slate, Damon. The games we got, 12 o'clock, it's always the Knicks. The Knicks are always at 12 o'clock. It's just the way it is. They're playing against the Spurs. Timberwolves at the Mavs are at 2:30. Sixers, Celtics, 5. Lakers, Warriors, 8. And then Nuggets, Suns, 10:30. Evan, are you excited for this Christmas Day slate? Which game are you most excited for? And what are your thoughts?
The primetime one is billed to be, Lakers, Warriors, arguably, Sixers, Celtics in there too. But obviously, Joel's health again. Paul George health to start the year. I mean, they've started to play a little bit. You make these matchups thinking you're going to have Maxey and Embiid and Paul George to go up against the defending champs, and like that's not what we're going to get. Lakers Warriors. I mean, we've just kind of belittled a little bit where the Lakers are at just based on the roster construct. Then you got a Warriors team that again it's more about the LeBron Curry rivalry than it is the actual on-court product because both those teams are. I mean, they're 6 through 10 seed. Was that right?
Yeah, they were. Lakers were literally Lakers were literally at the 10th seed. That's
what I thought.
Let me make sure.
So, but you've got teams that like aren't at the top billing. You don't have OKC in here. You don't.
Lakers 10, Warriors 8.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, so I mean these are play-in teams at this standing. I mean it'll be cool to see. There's some pieces that I think are synonymous with Christmas, like grab your eggnog, and yes, that noon game is going to be the Knicks, and you're going to hear the Madison Square Garden organ over and over and over again. And you're going to see similar stuff at Curry, LeBron playing like for the umpteenth time and the like 12th consecutive Christmas. But I mean, I think part of it's injuries, part of it's just how the league shaped this year, where you're not going to have the Cavs playing, or you don't have the Bucks playing, you don't have OKC playing. Again, you can't predict Memphis and Houston are going to be up that high and stuff. But I mean, it'll be on. The TV will be on, and then we'll probably get to the end here too. I mean, this is also going to be a challenging year and a continuing challenging year. When we talk about ratings, and we talk about there's now multiple NFL games on Netflix on the same day.
Same day.
The NBA's pie.
1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. So it's funny, the NFL game the last one will end before the LeBron Curry game at 8 o'clock. So it's funny how that works. I think with these matchups, like Timberwolves Mavericks, I get that because that was the Western Conference Finals last year. So it's like, all right, and then it's Luka versus Anthony Edwards, young stars, yada yada. Nuggets, Suns, you want to have Joker and KD on there, but again, like me personally, I would not have put the Sixers on Christmas because just Joel's history. Like it's just I wouldn't have taken that risk,
especially before the first of the year every year.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken that risk. Like he's already ineligible to win awards. Like it's just bad. But again, it's gonna be on all day. I mean,
T-Wolves, in terms of competitiveness, T-Wolves Mavs might be your most competitive game. And Nuggets Suns might be the second. Mm-hmm. So, rapid fire, take a pick. We always take a pick. Who you choosing? Spurs, Knicks.
I'm going to go Spurs. I'm going to go upset early.
I'm going Knicks at home.
Wemby time. Wemby's going to have a Christmas day for us.
T-Wolves at
Mavericks.
Sixers, Celtics. Lakers, Warriors, Dubs.
LeBron, it's Christmas. He's gonna have one of those LeBron.
Is he gonna go over a screen?
No, but he's gonna have a 30-point triple-double. I can tell you that.
5 days before he turns 40.
Yep. Oh yeah, I guarantee. I can almost 5 days before 40. He's like, this is what a 40-year-old does, and tweet like that. I'm telling you,
triple-double with an L.
No, he's winning. They're winning.
I'm saying triple-double with an L.
No.
Nuggets.
They have to win a Guardian Anthony Davis.
And they do it bullpen by committee.
Okay. Nuggets, Suns. I got the Suns.
I got the Nuggets. So a little bit different there. Martin, let's end with, we got a lot on the odds and ends play today. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with I guess health is always serious.
Yeah.
Coach Pop had to step back because of health issues. He just came back, like recently.
He just put out a statement the other day.
Yeah.
The other day about he's not, it's frustrating for him, and it was, I forget the one liner at the end of the press release that said, like, appreciate everybody's love and support, yada yada, and like, like in my like therapy stuff I'm going through right now, like they think I'm a pain too. So like
allegedly he had a stroke earlier this month.
Yeah. So I mean, it makes it real. Like when you see some of those living giants, like if we just take inventory of where we're at in this NBA season, you got LeBron going to be 40 years old, and like you just assume LeBron's always going to be there. Coach Pop, arguably
75,
one of the greatest coaches of all time. He's 75. Like he just had a stroke. Like. He's been away from the team for a long, long time. Like you got to press pause at times, like as a sports fan, and just kind of take inventory of a season and be like, okay, like in terms of continuity and legacy of teams and players and coaches, like who knows how much longer we've got left with both people contributing to the NBA kind of thing. So so continued prayers and thoughts for Pop as he goes through that right now. Being one of the best to ever do it.
Unfortunately, from the organizational side, you gotta be like, we gotta start thinking about a successor, and like we gotta start thinking.
And a lot of us thought, it was going to be Becky Hammon until it wasn't.
Yeah, until it wasn't. But they gotta start thinking, because again, 75, and now you just had a stroke. Like that's not. I know you want him to be around with like Wemby and Chris Paul, which right now they are right behind the Lakers for that last play-in spot. They're 13-13, so their theory and technically in play, but. You got to start thinking of success for him. Pop, he's been coaching that team for almost 30 years. He needs to be able to enjoy these later years of his life, like just relaxing. So, all right. Evan, you alluded to this. The NBA random ratings discourse that been floating around the socials. People have been talking about, why are the ratings down, blah, blah. Everyone's giving their take. Shaq says everyone plays the same. Some people say they're not highlighting X, Y, and Z. It's always about the Lakers and no one cares. Or some will say that, the NBA is too political and that's turned people away, yada, yada. What are your personal thoughts? One on, is it just a talking piece of the year because it happens almost every year, but this year feels like it's intensified. But like, what are your thoughts on like the NBA ratings decrease?
Well, speaking of taking inventory of like the problem and where you're at, and like in comparison to other things, like recognize we are going head to head on a lot of nights with football. Mm-hmm. We are going a lot head to head on weekends, on Friday and Saturday with college football, and an expanded 12-team playoff where, there's a lot of extra, you're competing with for a lot of eyeballs. And there's just not that many screens. If you're nuts like us, we have a lot of screens, so we can watch it all. But anyway, for like your common fan, like that's that. Like talk to me in January, February, March about your ratings discourse, and like let's see where we're at. Like let's go apples to apples. Or was the NBA January 23 to 24, and then now in 25? Like let's compare year over year. My one fear with this though is like, so Adam Silver's already come out and he's done the PR spiel of like okay, well, like
today,
well, look, like look how many clicks and shares, and like look, we're doing fine on social. Like,
they're killing it on social media.
Let's dangle the keys over here. Don't look at the problem because we've got a comparable over here that says we're doing great, and like that doesn't address the problem. It just distracts people. I mean, that's just a PR strategy 101 there. But like, here's my fear though too, because Adam's done this before. And that'll lead us into the All-Star game conversation in a second, is like Adam at times goes, I want to be on the forefront of change. I want to be on the forefront of, finding the next cool thing. And like we change things too fast, or we unnecessarily change things. And that's kind of where we're in this All-Star conversation right now too. So my fear is like, I heard all kinds of wild stuff. He's made too many comments for me to feel comfortable that he's not seriously doing this, but I feel like he is. There's been discourse on too many teams are taking threes nowadays, like changing the spacing on the court again, or like messing with the 3-point line, or like some wild people have thrown out like, all right, like after X amount of shots, or like in the final whatever, like you're capped on threes. Like that's wild stuff. That is wild stuff. Like players have developed and put years into this game. Like one, I don't think the Players Association would ever sign off on that. I mean, especially with this generation, like they've grown up shooting 3-pointers. Like it's part of the game. Like I'm not as frustrated by that. That's not a selling point for me on me to change stuff, but I'm fearful based on some of Adam's track record before that he might look at something crazy like that before he hangs it up as commissioner. What are your thoughts? You've laid out a lot of great things that it could be attributed to. Do you see any trends? Are you worried about it?
One of my biggest ones is I forget which Cavaliers game it was, but they were playing another like high end team. And it was just, it wasn't for us because we live in Ohio, but for like other people, it was just shoved on League Pass. And I think the NBA has a problem, and I don't want to call it like the LeBron problem or anything like that, but I think they're so fixated on like the NBA, the talking shows, because again, ESPN shows a lot of these games, First Take, all Colin Cowherd, all that. They're always talking about, rightfully so, they've earned their stuff, like the established stars, like LeBron, Curry, like, it's like, we get it, man. We know they're great. We know they're on Mount Rushmore, things of that nature. I don't think we do I don't think we do enough job highlighting up-and-coming stars, or, like, the young stars who are here now, unless they do something absolutely, like, crazy. Like the fact that the Cavs are 23-4, and I'm not just saying the Cavs because we're in Ohio, but I'm just saying that they're 23-4, they're the top team in the NBA, and they don't get any publicity like that is absurd. The fact that OKC, Shea, Gilgeous-Alexander, they're 20-5 in the West, they're number one in the West again, because remember, they finished the year percentage-wise number one in the West last year. They don't get that much publicity at all. If Giannis wasn't on the Bucks, they would not get as much publicity at all. I think that's our problem. And I think that's the difference between the NBA and NFL. NFL, it doesn't matter what market you're in. Like the Green Bay Pack, like all the small market people, like if you're good, I think that's the other thing. When you're good in the NFL, it doesn't matter. You're getting talked about on TV.
And when you're bad, we're going to commit to the regular cadence of our stuff. And like, if you're going to get a Denver and Chicago Thursday night, gosh darn it, we're going to make you watch this Denver-Chicago Thursday night. They are. And then the NBA is like, you have to be good, and you have to have a superstar who they categorize as a superstar, media, whoever, the NBA, to then be shown on TV. I also want to talk about like the flexibility of like... Yes. The NFL has the flexibility to flex games in and out. I did hear something about like the Cavs Thunder game in January is getting flexed. They flexed a few. So that is good. Like I think they need to start doing that. Do more of that.
Like I know it's way too late right now, but if you would take the Sixers out of that Christmas game and put Celtics Cavs on Christmas, that's the two best teams in the East. Why would, like, if you had that ability, why wouldn't you do that? Like, that's what I would do. Like, I would have done that, but again, they can't take them out now, but just.
I mean, I don't know whether it's like advertising pressure or what you put on to make that happen, but like, you think about, like, unfortunately, it's probably a pharmaceutical company in America, right?
Yeah.
But somebody who's paid a boatload of ad dollars to run commercials because knowing the eyeballs are going to be watching NBA games on Christmas Day. Like, until some of those folks really start leveraging, and like, it's not you're just getting the ratings hit, but like also we're not getting the ROI on our investment in terms of like what the Nielsen ratings are kicking back or anything else. Like, that's at the end of the day, money talks. So like, more flexing. I think you have to just not take such a staunch position on your, like, because it's Christmas Day, and what's the next other big day?
Martin Luther
King Day too. So same kind of concept. You have to be willing to flex on your two biggest days of the year to put the best product possible forward to advance people's interests, to keep interest, and to be competitive. I mean, that's what your competitors are doing in other leagues, minus baseball, because baseball still hasn't figured it out.
And then on the other thing too, other stuff that we've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast, obviously superstars and that, like, not playing at games. We've talked about like the home, like normal people saving up their money to get to a game, go to a game, and then that player doesn't play. We've talked about that plenty of times. Obviously, it did not look good at the beginning of the year before there's even a tip off, and Joel Embiid's like, "Oh yeah, I'm not playing the first week.
I'm not playing back-to-backs at all.
I'm not playing back-to-backs. I'm not playing the first week." And this is the guy who's won an MVP of recent memory. So it's like, you say that already turns people off. And I do think also, too, it's an arm and a leg for some people to find, to be able to watch their games. Like, if you don't have League Pass or you don't have whatever, it's hard sometimes because of your local situation or whatnot. But I just think there's this...
They could improve some things there, too, on the regional network stuff.
But then I also look on the flip side where people talk about, like, the ratings here in the United States. And obviously, that's where we live. But globally, the NBA is destroying the NFL. Like, globally, I would say the NBA is the second biggest global sport besides soccer. So it's like, they're in a good spot. They're not going to disappear. But I would just say this, like, they can just do some things here or there. And it doesn't help. And I love them. It doesn't help where Houston's in the Final Four for the Cup, and Charles Barkley is saying, like, they don't know how to play basketball. So if you're saying a team is in the Final Four of the Cup and don't know how to play basketball, why should a casual person watch the game? Like, there's just a lot. Everyone's just using it as a talking piece now and whatnot. And like you said, there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, just wait when there's not a lot of stuff going on. Because, I mean, people talk about the NBA all the time, like social media, like you've already said with the commish. And I just feel like, too, he's, like you said, he always likes to be on the forefront. I do feel like sometimes you can be just a little too nice. Like, I don't think any of this, and we're going to get to the All-Star game, too, none of this is happening if David Stern was alive.
Absolutely not.
Not a chance.
There's a lot that wouldn't happen in David.
For better or for worse. There's a lot of good and a lot of bad that would not have happened if he was here, or he wouldn't have this. Oh, no.
No way whatsoever. Speaking of one of those changes, we've touched base on it several times and teased it enough. Let's get it out. So the hottest water cooler talk right now is about the official new format of the 2025 NBA All-Star Game. Martin, would you go ahead and give a rundown of what that looks like?
Oh, my gosh. So, people, please bear with me as, again, this literally is new and official now.
Remember, the commissioner says it's for your best interest.
So for old school watchers, you knew, like, you had the skills competition, 3-point shootout, the dunk contest, and the All-Star Game. Those were the big things. And the rookie-sophomore game, which now they've even changed that. So now, instead of we went from East-West to Team LeBron versus Team Giannis, yada yada, we have a mini tournament with 4 teams and 3 games. 24 NBA All-Star selections divided evenly into 3 8-player teams. 4th team is the Rising Stars champion. Honorary general managers, TNT analysts Charles Barkley, Shaq, Kenny Smith, and Candace Parker. Barkley, O'Neal, and Smith draft their team rosters from the pool of the 24 All-Stars. Parker is automatically the GM of the Rising Stars champion. 2 teams meet in one semifinal, game 1, and the remaining 2 teams meet in the other semifinal, game 2. Winning teams from game 1 and 2 advance to face each other in championship game 3. Winner of each game is the first team to reach or surpass 40 points.
All right, if it's raining on a Tuesday and it's below 30 degrees outside, you do this. But if it's over 30 degrees, then you do like that's what I feel like we're at right now. Is like this is way too much. Like let's go back to like that Elam ending thing was kind of cool for a little bit that we did, but I just feel like we're way overthinking it. The answer has been the same answer as long as we've been doing this podcast, Martin. Line them up, East, West, have them play. The winning conference gets home court advantage in the NBA Finals. That is the most simplistic thing to do, and I do not know why they won't do it. You don't tell me you're going to have Jason Tatum and Giannis and Donovan Mitchell giving everything they can to the West to make sure that they get home court advantage playing the West in the finals. Those guys are going to, Giannis is going to put Thanasis on his back because he seems to play better with him in the crowd, or, there's a level of comfort there, whatever, but like they will move heaven and earth to do that. And I would like to think probably the Western Conference would too. I mean, that matters so much. Home court advantage matters so much. And they just give it to best record, like overall. Like that's a way to do it. That's a way to do it. But if you want to incentivize this game, you want people to start caring again, you gotta sweeten the pot with something that impacts the season as a whole. And I feel like that's the tide that lifts all boats. Give the winner home court advantage. That's my pitch.
I mean, that's what they were doing in the
MLB back in the day. World Series.
And they may have to go back to that. Look, man, it's crazy because I feel like I've talked about this again every freaking year. I used to really get up for All-Star Weekend. I would plan my whole day around it. I would make sure I'm watching the dunk contest. I would make sure I'm watching the 3-point shootout. I would make sure I'm watching the All-Star game because it was always around President's Day weekend. So I knew if I was in school, I particularly had that Monday off, or work-wise, I may have that Monday off. I used to gear myself around that weekend because...
And those things have fallen by the wayside too. You don't have the best dunkers participating anymore. You don't have the best 3-point shooters shooting long balls anymore.
No, it's bad. I will say, the most exciting thing last year was Steph versus Ionescu. That was the most exciting thing of All-Star Weekend last year. So I'm pretty sure the NBA is going to try and... probably going to try and ask Steph to do that type of thing again, this time maybe against Caitlin, or Caitlin and Sabrina Ionescu, and then Steph and Clay reunite the Splash Brothers, maybe something crazy. But
it'll be involved. It's in Golden State. The All-Star game is in Golden State, so it'll be Steph-centric.
They'll get something. So I don't know what they're going to do, but this tournament thing, my simple thing is that if 2 teams are playing each other, do the other 2 teams just sit there and watch? It's back in the playground? Or are you going to do... And this is all supposed to be on Sunday night. So are you going to do a split screen? Are they playing half court, full court? I just want to know what the other teams, the schematics, what are the other teams going to do when this 2 teams are playing? And then when they finish, they're going to come off the court. This team's going to come on. I feel like this could be even longer than the All-Star game, because if 2 teams get to 40, how much time do you give in between games for players to rest, to warm up, to then get back and play again? I just want to see how they're going to do that.
And the inclusion of rising star folks in this is no.
Yeah, because they may even care more than the All-Stars.
You're gonna make Giannis by the time that Chuck and all those guys get to the end of their picks and stuff. You're gonna tell me Giannis is one of his options to sub him out is Reese's Shea or something. What are we doing? And then how many rookie sophomores flame out too in 5 years?
That's true.
And we're gonna be 15 years from now, hey, remember when Jason Tatum shared a court with this guy who didn't make it past his rookie contract? What are we doing here?
No. I don't like it. Again, it'll be the first time. I just want to see schematics of it. Because I'm really curious what these other teams are going to do when 2 teams are playing.
It's the NBA on TNT. Tune in to watch LeBron and Alex Sarr.
I mean, yeah, because he'll be he has the most fans.
Let us know, listeners. How would you solve the All-Star game?
I mean, I would. I mean, people have said it. The players have said go back to East versus West, but I mean, you guys got to play. Like, you guys got to put in some effort. Again, no one is asking you to like punch someone in the face or go crazy, but at least try and block someone's shot. Like, I don't understand. I don't remember which All-Star game started this shift. Because again, you and me are old. You and I are old enough that All-Star game, first 3 quarters, yeah, do some flashy stuff, yada yada. But once that fourth quarter came, it was a real game.
No more Shaq dribbling between his legs 50 times and chucking a 3.
It became like a real game. I don't know which game stopped that shift. I don't. Like, I want to go back and like rewatch some All-Star games to see.
Say another word for a second.
No. I just want to know, like, half of me wants to rewatch some All-Star games of the past, like, 10, 15 years to be like, which was the game that changed it all that we're having, like, 200-point games? Because, again, these fourth quarters used to be really competitive.
Kobe Bryant.
I agree.
Kobe Bryant leaving the league.
I remember his last one where him and LeBron were going. Like, he was smacking the floor playing defense. Like, I agree. I mean, but then I was like, I mean, LeBron understands it. And it's like, but I guess, I don't know. I feel like he'd be more vocal. Like, hey, we got to at least try.
I feel like he wants more random 5 days off to dodge alleged rumors about rappers. But.
Well, tell his family to stop voting. Tell his fans to stop voting for him. He's going to be the number 1 vote getter until he retires.
Correct.
Now, I don't know who's going to be number 1 when it's probably be Steph Curry. But he has the most fans. So they're going on their phones clicking right now.
I don't know if, just to sum things up, I don't know that, I mean, I honestly have kind of taken the All-Star game off the last couple of years. Like, it just, hey, I'll check the score. Like, maybe I'll check some highlights for what Skills Challenge yielded, or, especially if, like, if Evan Mobley finds himself in a Skills Challenge, absolutely. Like, I'll be down to, like, check in a little bit on that. But, like, outside of that, I just don't know. Like, I just don't have the interest, I think. So, I mean, but in between that giant debacle we have in February.
Oh, one last thing on the All-Star thing, because I know we've brought this up too. If we didn't go back to East versus West, winner gets home court in the finals, I would do Team USA versus the International. I would do it. That would be my second one. There's enough international players I could do a starting 5, and I'd do a 5-on-5 of that.
Just go full Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
United States versus the world.
Yep. 5-on-5. I wouldn't even give a bench. I'm sorry.
There's plenty. Mm-hmm. I think USA could get slapped, man.
I mean, who are the 5 best American players right now?
Well, let's go the opposite direction. So your starting point guard's Luka, your starting center's Jokic. Let's fill them in around there.
Well, he is not healthy because I don't know what he's going to claim.
Shea at shooting guard.
Yep.
There's your Canadian shooting guard.
If he's healthy, and then Giannis would be either small forward or power forward, then it'd be Embiid if he was healthy.
Sub and Markkinen.
That's the all.
Sub and Markkinen.
Literally, besides, I forgot which one of them did not make. No, which one did not make All NBA? One of them did not make All NBA because you take one of them out and put Tatum in. That's the All NBA first team from last year. It was all international besides Tatum. So I'm just saying. And then your 6 man's probably Wembley. Like, yeah. Okay, like I would
get a couple Bogdanoviches to be chucking threes. Like, as long as it's not Evan Fournier. Sorry, that came up in a group chat this week, and we were talking. He's playing overseas right now, and like I couldn't focus on the awesome European crowd. It was like the zoom in to Evan Fournier.
You don't like him. But that would be my East-West finals or Team USA versus.
I think there's an argument there. I think that, but both are infinitely better than where we're at. So I hope this is a one and done thing.
I don't even know why. And they're doing what 5-on? They're doing 5-on-5 on this thing too. It's not even 3-on-3. Like, if we're gonna do that, you might as well just gone 3-on-3 to 21 and just called. And then another thing to add to the All-Star thing, because people have talked about it. I'd watch a 1-on-1 to 10 competition, King of the Hill. I would watch that.
LeBron would get rid of the tapes.
Well, he wouldn't enter. That's his problem. He doesn't want to enter that stuff. Anything where he could be by himself and potentially lose, he's not entering.
Correct.
But I think Kyrie would probably win the one-on-one.
Oh, Kyrie would win.
Yeah, Kyrie would win.
And if he doesn't,
King of the Hill. Oh yeah.
let me see some DG the PG in there too. He's
Again,
got some handles.
yeah, I mean, to be put on an island in front of everyone, like it's back in like you're back playing in the backyard, and you're having the oohs and ahs.
Let's take it outside if that's the case, though.
I
That's
would love
fine.
that too.
Let's take it outside.
Hey, don't tempt me on a good time. Get on the. If they did the King of the Hill one-on-one at Rucker Park, I think that would go crazy.
That would go crazy.
Evan, man, it's been a blast doing this live pod with you. It's been fantastic, and can't wait to do it again at some point in time. And thank you all for listening to the L7C, the Christmas episode of NBA. Make sure you, again, we love the NBA over here. Like, I know we were just kind of sounded like we were very mad about some of the changes, but again, we love it. We wanted to strive.
Passionate about it.
Yeah, compassionate about it. But sometimes you got to call them out when they're doing bad stuff. So
And when they're doing good stuff. Cleveland, this pod's for you.
that is true. And with that being said, this is the L7C podcast signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.